which I'm sure was interesting.
Oh, my goodness. Interesting is such an understatement.
Wow.
It is tripping.
Welcome to the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. Now, here's your host, author, speaker, entrepreneur, Cornell Jermaine.
I don't feel comfortable having sex because of the weight that I gained. I don't feel like I look good enough to just do all that stuff that he want me to do. He tells me all the time that I'm beautiful, but I just don't see it because I gained so much weight. So that's why we don't have sex as much.
Can I say this to you, Mrs. Roberson? You are absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
You should see what I see. I think I see what he sees. And I think it's a damn shame that we live in a society that is so body conscious that a woman whose husband looks at her and sees a beautiful woman there that he wants to touch and love, but we have in the magazines and on TV say if you're over a size 10, you are no longer attractive. I think that is a sad, sad thing. You need to learn to love your beauty. Be healthy. If you want to lose weight, lose weight. Do what you need to do there. But don't you dare believe what they're telling you about what pretty is. Because pretty is in that soul and it comes out all over you. And it is, and my son told me, she said, if she's not a size 12, I ain't looking. Under size 12, he's not interested. You know what I'm saying? It's just, skinny isn't pretty. Pretty is who you are and who you have and who loves you. And a good brother loves you. And I think you're beautiful. And don't let them sell you that nonsense, because it's not true.
Thank you for joining me. I have a special guest with me today. She's a graduate of Harvard University and the University of Pennsylvania Law School, an elected judge since 1993, a recipient of many awards, one being the Humanitarian of the Year Award presented by the Cleveland Domestic Violence Center. She's an legal analyst, relationship expert, a TV host, author, wife, and mother. Please help me welcome the Honorable Judge, or should I say Auntie Lynn Toler.
Auntie is more and more common these days. I'm telling you, I got a whole new gig.
Yes, you offer so much wisdom and insight to this generation. It's like you're the aunt that, we can call when we're not seeing eye to eye with our parents.
There you go. That's my new job.
Wow, I'm so honored to have you on today. You're so accomplished, and there's so much that we can talk about, but we'll get to as much as we can in the allotted time. But you're such an accomplished woman. Looking back on your formative years, who do you credit your success to and why?
Oh, my parents, undoubtedly. My father was extraordinarily accomplished himself. He was born in 1919, but he was went to law school in 1947. He gave us a very strong middle-class background, and he paid for college and law school, which was lovely. And my mother was an extraordinarily emotionally intelligent woman who kept us focused and grounded and alert. So the two of them I got extraordinarily lucky in the parent department because both of my parents were extraordinary in their own right.
Wow. It's my understanding that you dealt with some mental illness with your father. How did that play a role in those years?
It did a couple of things. It allowed me to be a convincing speaker because he had this soft spot for my sister and me that allowed us to talk to him when he was otherwise unreachable, not always, but sometimes. And it allowed me to say the right things and figure out how to say things that would at least extricate us from a situation. It also made me a very anxious and nervous person. I'm a bit like that genetically, but he made it worse. But I think all adversity makes you better. So I believe that having lived through that, I took other challenges as being much easier because I'd been through more difficult things.
Wow. Growing up as a kid, we oftentimes maybe see and hear things in the home, and we don't know how to articulate them.
Right.
At what point or what age did you really realize something's not right with Dad? When was that?
Oh, I mean, it was from the jump. I mean, it was Here, I guess when you're young, you really don't know that it doesn't happen in other houses. But what was, him breaking out windows and us sleeping at the drive-in movies and having blankets and a purse in the back of a car and jumping out of the windows and all that kind of stuff. I mean, early on, we knew. At that point, I just thought he was mean. But my mother never really allowed us to think badly of him. She explained it away. She helped us understand it. So by the time I was a teenager, I knew that it was an unquiet mind as opposed to an unfeeling nature that made him behave as he did, because when he was in a good state of mind, he was just extraordinary. Very loving, very caring, very, he just had his thing.
Yeah. Did you feel some need to take Mom's side or protect her at some point ever?
Oh God, yes, all the time. I mean, there would be, when I was very young, not very young, I was maybe 5 or 6. If things got really bad and Mom couldn't do anything with him, she would call me, Lenny, come talk to your father. And sometimes it was just stop him long enough so she could slip out of the house. But from a very, very young age, I felt responsible for keeping her safe.
I'm curious, you being a victim and a sufferer, or I should say a survivor, because you came out on top.
Right.
How do you define mental health or mental illness?
Well, I mean, mental illness is such a wide panoply of different things. There are just so many different psychoses and neuroses, so it's not just one thing. He was bipolar. That was his thing, and tended to be more manic than depressive, but he was bipolar. That's what it was. His brothers had mental health issues. I have mental health challenges. So it's just, to me, it's a designation of a cluster of behaviors that if we look at them together, we kind of know what they mean and what they'll tend to make a person do. I think a whole lot of people who have mental health issues don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it's such a taboo, shameful subject that we don't talk about it. And I think, I'm short, I'm black, I have, you know what I mean? It's just part of who I am.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing, it's just a thing.
Yeah. Speaking of mental illness, and I want to talk mental illness in the judicial system for a second, because many in our community sometimes feel like individuals that don't look like us often get away with gruesome crimes just because they claim mental illness, even if it's just in the court of public opinion.
Right.
What do you make of that as a judge?
I think it's always about, do you have a good lawyer or don't you? I mean, O.J. is as black as I am, but he had the money for good lawyers. Mm-hmm. And I think that, if you have a good lawyer, you have the money and to hire experts and all that kind of stuff, and you can, like the affluenza guy, they had the money to hire the guys, the attorneys to, the system just responds to that. So I think that mental health is a real thing that really needs to be taken into consideration in trials and stuff. But the inequity that we have to face is how finances enable you to or determine how good of a defense you can put on. You know what I mean?
So when they offer you these I guess court-appointed or pro bono attorneys, are they would you say less qualified, or maybe don't have the
well, not
tenure?
Necessarily. Yeah, I mean, cream rises to the top. The guys that are really good at what they do, they can charge for their skill. And also they have the money to hire experts. I mean, often in the mental health thing, it's a battle of experts. And, if appointed attorneys don't have that. They tend to be younger because they're just starting out, and you're not if they're getting paid by the state, $70 an hour, and this other cat's getting paid $800 an hour. You know what I mean? They do the best that they can with the resources that they have, but they probably have a huge docket of people, a huge number of clients. And these guys that are $800 an hour don't have that many clients. They just have a few clients that pay really, really well, and they get more time. They have, other lawyers and infrastructure in the law firm that's behind them. It makes a difference.
Wow. You spend a lot of time not only working in the judicial system, but mending and helping relationships. You are a divorce court judge for, I believe it's Fox. Is it still on Fox TV?
Yeah, Fox.
Fox hit show Divorce Court, and you also spent time with Marriage Boot Camp, which I'm sure was interesting.
Oh my goodness, interesting! It's such an understatement.
Wow,
it is tripping. It is downright tripping.
Is it the hip hop that's getting in the brain cells or something, or what is it?
It's all of it. I mean, to be in seclusion with a bunch of reality stars, and they are secluded for a couple of weeks in that environment, it's like a little pressure cooker, and any cracks in your personality or your cool will expand, and you would not believe the stuff that we have to deal with on a daily basis. It's fascinating. It's something I couldn't do I couldn't participate in it.
Wow. Is it the pressure of public opinion by being that they're stars or television personalities?
Part of it is because when you are a reality star, typically when you're on a television show, they're, how shall I say, guided along through what's going to happen. That doesn't happen on Marriage Boot Camp. We just do stuff, and they find that they find it alarming. Well, what do you mean? Well, we're just doing these exercises, and we want you to respond. Well, how's this going to go? We don't know how it's going to go. We're just doing stuff. We want to see how you respond. And they also have an image to maintain. So they're also trying to manage their image. Sometimes people come on the show to rehabilitate their image. So you're fighting on a lot of levels. And then the exercises that we do were developed by people who really knew what they were doing, so that it elicits real emotional response. And that is, number one, you have to go through that emotion, and number two, you have to think about how do you look to the public, because that's their, that matters to them.
Yeah. You spend a lot of time as the divorce court judge, and being that you're a relationship expert, Marriage Boot Camp, I'm curious, what do you feel, because we've grown up in a community, especially in our forefathers, if you got married, you were married, and I don't care how bad it was, you stayed married. But in your personal opinion, are there any circumstances that warrant a divorce, and if so, what are they?
Oh, absolutely. Abuse, no doubt. I mean, in an abusive circumstance, and abuse doesn't mean just getting hit. It's like financial abuse and emotional abuse and psychological abuse. Clearly, that needs to end. If you have a high-volume household where you're fighting all the time and you have children don't do well in a chaotic environment. So sometimes it might be better to have two different stable and quiet homes as opposed to one frenetic, unendingly dramatic home. So there are times when there's infidelity, if somebody's cheating all the time and just simply chooses not to participate in the marriage in a positive, it's a lopsided marriage, one person's doing all the giving. There are a lot of reasons to get a divorce. I think people divorce too quickly because they don't know how to alter circumstances that they can alter, but there are circumstances where, yes, divorce is the right solution.
Mm-hmm. I heard an older gentleman not long ago. He said, "This generation, they're getting divorced because they're lazy."
And I think sometimes it's an immediate gratification thing. That's number one, and number two, we've got that dumb phone and internet where the minute my husband makes me unhappy, I can go online and flirt with somebody across the globe, and it is really interrupting the desire to deal with and fix what's going on in the home, because you have such an easy access to out and feel good. And number two, it opens you up to cheating without leaving the house. You can develop an emotional relationship with somebody, and then boom, boom, boom. So there are challenges to modern-day marriage that we simply didn't have.
Yes, because I see it all the time. And people going back and forth with their spouse on Facebook.
On Facebook, yeah, and all these little subliminal messages, and every time he messes up, he jumps online. It's that constant third eye that has interrupted the marital relationship, or just relationship in general, is a very difficult thing to overcome, and we need to make plans and rules for dealing with that, because we're falling victim to all of those negative aspects that it presents.
Let's say we have a couple where the woman has gotten, I guess, comfortable with venting about her marriage on Facebook. Where can she start to begin to repair that, not only the relationship, but even how she copes with the disappointment?
Yeah, stop posting. First of all, have limits about what you post about, and have rules about what you post about. My rule is, if I can't type it with my husband looking over my shoulder and not say anything about it, then I don't type it at all. I don't say anything negative about him, or if it's negative, it's like a joke. But this is the country Mumford Toler, and I'm not going to tear down the walls, with Facebook posts and let the world either comment or come in, because they're not, they don't have a visa. They can't come.
Right. Wow. Speaking of this generation, you're the mom of 6 sons. I'm curious, what wisdom did you offer them as it pertains to dating when they were younger?
Well, it was interesting. My husband had 4 sons when I got married, so they were older, and boys don't want you dipping in their stuff. My son has a girlfriend now, the youngest one, and it was a year before he would let me talk to her alone, because he just didn't want me to dip in it. All I do is I'm like, look, don't get nobody pregnant. And the rest of it they learn from watching their father. I can see them repeating what he does. So he was their best counsel, but they don't want to hear from me about that nonsense. Just don't want it.
As a mom, is a part of you nervous about, because the class of women can be a little questionable nowadays? Are you nervous about that at all?
No, because my kids have a very strong sense of what they're going to deal with and what they're not going to deal with, because their father's been like that. And so them trifling, trashy chicks, they're not interested. It's just not their cup of tea.
Wow. Now, we mentioned the 6 sons, but you have a book that's titled Dear Sonali, Letters to the Daughter I Never Had. Tell us about that.
Well, it goes to the point that you just make. I've had 6 sons, and they never want to talk to me about anything about relationships. And I have all this advice I was dying to share with, about what I know about growing up and about being a woman. And since I never had a daughter to share it with, and since I'm Auntie Lynn everywhere, Twitter feed, Instagram, Facebook, they're always like, you're the auntie in my head, you're the mom's number 2, all of that. So I said, there's my audience. I don't have one at home, but I have one out there, so why don't I write to them what I would have liked to have told a daughter of mine.
Give us a little snippet of maybe one of the nuggets of wisdom that you offer.
Let's see. Well, never make a man tell you he doesn't want you more than once. And he can tell you he doesn't want you in a whole lot of different ways. Take it the first time he says it. Don't think, well, if I hang in there, if he really loves you and really wants you, he'll turn around and come get you if you walk off. But but don't just stick in a relationship and he's letting you know it's not what it is. It's not what you want. Don't fight it. You have a busy, deep, layered, interesting, fascinating life that does not center around a dude. And then you'll have greater, number one, you will not stay in an unpleasant or unsatisfying relationship long because you have so many other satisfying things in your life. And two, if you have a deep, rich life, you meet you meet more people and different, just not the cat down the block or in church. You have an expanded dating range. So be a layered, interesting, fascinating person with an interesting, fascinating life, and it helps you on two different levels with your relationships.
I'm curious to your thoughts on something because I spoke to a relationship expert not long ago, and he mentioned that he suggests to his female clients to date multiple people because he often feels like women settle too soon. What do you think about that?
I think he's absolutely right. And you see it all the time on the divorce court. Well, I got a guy. He don't make me happy no more. He slept with my sister, but I love him. But I love him. Yes, he did cheat on me. Yes, he had a side baby. But I have so much time invested, and he doesn't do anything for me. Blah blah blah. But I love him. I don't know how to change. We will defend our home even when the home is the most unpleasant place for us to be. And I think you should know what different kinds of. I did a little thing. One of the things in my book is called What 20 is For. And I said, what 20 is for is seeing what different kinds of men are out there, what you like, what you don't like, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy. It's not for tying a die down, and you know what I mean? It's for you to understand what the other gender has to offer and how you want to be treated and what kind of guy you can best get along with. It's not for keeping the first guy you get because you may not get another one.
Yeah, so true, so true. Just shifting a little bit, you're a known activist for women's rights and progress. What are your thoughts on the MeToo movement?
Well, I mean, it's about time. It's very, very interesting. I was talking to a guy who says, I don't know why women all of a sudden start making up these stories about how, and I said, this is what you don't understand, is this has been happening to women forever. If you are a woman and you sit in a room with a bunch of women, all of us have a whole book of stories of how dudes have just come crooked at them and how it was difficult and wrong. And in my mother's book, it was, okay, here's how they act, here's what you should do. She used to tell me, like, if you're in a situation you're sexually harassed in the workplace, what you do is you make a firm no with a joke and then change the subject and act like it didn't happen. So they know that you're not going to tell, but they also know that you're not going to be bothered. If you don't take that hand back, you're going to have to explain to your wife why you lost that finger and then laugh and then keep it moving. That was part of our training to deal with inappropriate sexual advances. And we didn't complain about it. We just dealt with it and moved on. But it shouldn't be that way. I shouldn't be harassed. I shouldn't be, I shouldn't have to watch myself when I go drink and stuff. You know what I mean? But it is that way, but it shouldn't be that way. And it's not because women are wrong, women dressed wrong, or we go the wrong places. But it's like it is wrong to do to some woman you wouldn't want some man to do to your daughter.
That's so true. It's funny, though, I've heard some women say that they think it dismisses the responsibility of the woman in some regard. Do you agree with that at all?
I don't. I mean, how is it that if you step up behind me and bop me on the back of the head and take my purse, what is my responsibility there? If you up behind me and you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. His behavior is wrong. Mm-hmm. If he sexually harasses me, why am I responsible for a guy who's doing the wrong thing?
That's true. When you think of cases like with the famous singer Robert Kelly, do you think some of those women in that situation could have not been in it? If it seems like a lot of them were manipulated mentally before they were even sexually harassed.
Oh, absolutely, and that's what people don't understand, even about battered women syndrome. First of all, he's dealing with like children, 14, 15 years old. You don't know, you know what I mean? And then you're a star, and then you come in there. That's why they have, well, anyway, I could go on and on. But when you're dealing with 14 and 15-year-old women and you got star status, they get caught up, just like battered women. Like people used to always say, why don't women leave? It's the psychological abuse that occurs before the hitting ever starts that leads them to believe, it isolates them, it leads them to believe they have no value. They start to believe that they are, in fact, responsible for getting hit. Well, what did you do? You made me hit you, or you pushed my buttons, and all of that kind of stuff. All women are always being asked to take responsibility for the bad things that happen to them. And you know what I mean? The question isn't just why didn't Susie see the signs of abuser? Well, it's her fault. She's not leaving him. She didn't see the signs. Why isn't it his fault for abusing her?
That's true. That's true. Wow. As mom and auntie, how can we better equip our young girls to be prepared not only for the world professionally but personally?
Make sure that they are focused on their financial security and are able to live independently and well, and understand that they have a right to be both satisfied and happy. And that way, a guy should be a net positive and not a net negative. My sister, who's a year older than me, never got married, and she is a very, very, very happy person. She travels. All her money is her own. She, all that kind of stuff. To be single is not a failure. And I think that a lot of times, we give women advice on how to keep men as if there isn't a crisis, a carceral crisis in our community. There is. There are too many brothers in jail. Just plucked out of the community. Just millions. They're gone. And you can't have a stable society with that going on. But in the interim, understand that, you can be happy on your own. You don't have to, have a piece of one guy who's traveling around, or you don't have to be in a relationship where you're not respected and valued because the numbers are off. You can be a happy person without having had, don't give up on what you want, but be able to deal with what you have.
Well, Judge Lynn, you have so much going on, from your personal initiatives to television, books. What have you not done? What's next for you?
Well, I'm written an episodic, a TV show. I'm doing that. I'm writing a novel. I'm working on a podcast, and then I need to take a nap.
I understand. Well, Judge Auntie Lynn, we thank you for joining us. I wish you much success in every endeavor.
Well, thank you so much. I enjoyed it. It was a pleasure.
Well, this has been the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. I'm your host, Cornell Jermaine. Until next time, let your soul be made whole. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Build on Beauty podcast. For more information about our host, please visit cornelljermaine.com.